All right, hi guys. We are a couple of 2Ls here to talk to you guys about some virtual learning, what it's going to look like, and some tips and tricks. I will go ahead and start with introducing myself and then let my peers do the same. My name is Sabrina Marquez. I'm a rising 2L. I am going to be a teaching assistant for any Civ Pro ILS people. I am on the SBA's Diversity Council as a student body member. I am the Community Service Director for the SBA. I am the President of the Latin American Law Students Association and recently found out that I'm a staff editor for the Law Review. Ellen, I will let you take it away.
Thanks, Sabrina. Hi, everyone. If you're watching this, I hope you're getting excited. My name is Ellen Pruitt. I'm also a rising 2L. This upcoming year, I'll be a law scholar for Professor Hubbard's Civ Pro class, as well as Professor Stone's criminal law class. So I hope to see some of you all. I'm also a teaching assistant / fellow at the Center for International and Comparative Law with Professor Sellers. And I'm also on the International Law Society Career Development Officer. And I also just found out recently, like Sabrina, that I'm now on Law Review as a staff editor. So looking forward to that new adventure. Yeah, and Sina's our last one. So take it away, Sina.
Thanks, Ellen. Hi, everyone. Welcome to University of Baltimore. My name is Sina John Shahi. I'm a rising 2L, and I'm going to be the teaching assistant for Professor Hubbard, along with Sabrina. And I'm also the vice president of the International Law Society and a student representative for the Diversity Council. And I also recently found out that I'm going to be a staff editor for the University of Baltimore Law Review.
All right, now that you guys have heard a little bit about us, we'll kind of do a brief overview of what virtual learning is going to look like, and then we'll get into like some suggestions of how you should kind of structure your first semester with it now being online. It is pretty similar to what it would be like in person. The biggest thing is probably going to be remaining organized. Just kind of what virtual learning looks like in law school is your scheduled times that you have for classes are going to be on Zoom. So you'll log on to the platform and it'll be like your normal class. You will want to have, if you can, like a separate headphone and microphone makes it really easy and clearer for everyone to hear you. Unfortunately, we will still probably have cold calls. So everyone will likely remain muted except for the professor. And then if you get called on, you'll just unmute and then answer your question, and then it'll move on from there. There's also a raise hand feature if you'd like to ask questions. One of the biggest things is just kind of to maybe pin your professor if you're likely to get distracted. Easiest way to make sure like you aren't deviating from class time. With office hours, Ellen, do you want to talk a little bit about office hours on Zoom and what they look like?
Sure. So office hours are set up in a similar way of they would be in person, in that your professor will let you know at the beginning of the year what time they're going to be available on Zoom. And so when they are available, what they'll do is they'll send a separate link. It'll be different than your class link, and it'll have a different meeting ID. And very likely it will have a password. And then you'll essentially just go in, and it would be just like you'd be outside of your professor's office, peeking in the window, waiting for him to let you in. So what you'll do is you'll sit there and it'll appear as a waiting room, waiting for the professor to let you in. And if the professor is with another student, it might be a minute. If the professor is not with a student, then he or she would be able to let you right in, and then you would just have like a one-on-one Zoom conversation with that teacher. I do recommend in advance, because it is a little weird to like sit on a waiting room and not know what's going on. I would recommend shooting your professor an email, just letting him or her know that you're going to be coming to their office hours that day, just so that they kind of have an idea of what's happening. This is a weird format for everybody. I think all of our professors are still getting used to it, and every professor you'll see will have a new way of dealing with it. So when dealing with office hours, they are going to be great. They're going to be just like normal conversations, but I would just take that extra step and just let them know.
Awesome. Sina, do you want to get into any tips and suggestions that you have for virtual learning?
Sure, yeah. Going off of what you said about the headphones, if you have wireless headphones, that's great. That usually is pretty convenient, but I do recommend just having a pair of manual headphones if you can in the background, because one of the things that we've experienced is that things don't always go as planned. There's going to be technical difficulties, and there's going to be times where maybe the wireless headphones don't work. So just having that pair of manual headphones to just plug in has always been reliable for me in case, it disconnects from Bluetooth or something like that happens. In general, some major tips I have is for note taking. I do recommend hand notes for every class if possible. I know a lot of us use our computers every day and we're used to typing, and that helps a lot, but nothing stays in your mind better than just writing out your notes. If you do decide to use a computer and type your notes, I'm going to go over a quick tip that I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Oh, I got
Sabrina,
you.
thank you. There we go. So if we've got Zoom on, we're going to have to pretend that Zoom is on this half of the screen. And your teacher is giving a bunch of notes and lectures, and you've got like a Word document over here that you're taking notes on. One of the fastest ways I have experienced to take notes is if you're on a Mac, if you press Command-Shift-4, your mouse becomes a crosshair, and you can click and drag over an area that your professor is sharing, whether that be like a graph or a table or just something that you know is really important and you want to just transfer it to your notes quickly. You just click and drag and let go. The preview appears right here, and you can click and drag it straight into your notes. And that's been really great because you can just go ahead and take notes right under that, whatever it may be. And that works for Macs. It also works for PC. You're just going to have to use the print screen function, which sometimes you'll have to press the FN button and whatever your print screen function is. And see, these are my property notes. As you can see, I've taken a bunch of these and just taken notes right underneath these figures. And let's see. Okay. And then Sabrina, did you have some other tips?
Yeah, I do. A big one is don't have your phone near you. I know that may be problematic, but it is such a distraction, even having it sitting next to you. I remember our professor first semester brought out studies that show how unproductive you are if you have your phone near you. She was like, just put it in your backpack, take the time, and actually dedicate yourself and focus. Even having your messages on your computer is such a distraction. I'm going to figure out how to uninstall mine, I promise. Because even having like the notification pop up or having like Facebook open can really just distract you from things that could be really important. Another thing that I found that's really helpful, especially for online learning, is making a schedule and starting a routine and keeping to it. So you'll start with kind of plotting out your big due dates and in a big calendar, and then you'll kind of go and create like weekly schedules and try to stick to them. So you'll schedule in your class times and when you're going to do your homework and eat dinner and have some downtime, of course, because you're going to need it. But really making a routine and sticking to it just so you're productive and don't fall into the trap of going into your bed because it's upstairs is super helpful. I found that staying organized wise, like binders and tabs are really helpful as well. I'm one of those people who likes to handwrite my notes, print things out, hole punch them and stick them in a binder. That's one of the things that work best for me. And then resource wise, if you're struggling or have questions or just want to talk to people, you're going to want to reach out to your law scholars and your teaching assistants because that's really what they're there for. We're here to kind of be your support system. We've been through that, not online, but we can at least provide some insight and help you law school or just life in general. That's what we're here for. Ellen, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I just want to encourage you all. It is going to be intimidating, and it is, I think, very easy on Zoom to say, I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to turn off my video and I'm just going to chill out. Like, this will make this more accessible for me, like it'll be less stressful, et cetera, et cetera. I want to really encourage you all not to do that. If the interaction with your professor will remember your face, and they are watching on Zoom. Their gallery view is so they can see your face. They want to interact with you. And that's where you're going to get the most out of your class. Because if you tune out, like Sabrina's saying, if you're on your phone, if you're on Facebook, law school is not something that you can do that. And so like in person, obviously you couldn't do that because it would be very embarrassing. But on Zoom, I want to encourage you to treat it the same way. Zoom should be like you're sitting in the classroom and the teacher is staring right at you and and will call on you. Cold calls are something that I personally, as a student, really have grown to appreciate because they are that extra like engaged thing. Like I don't know what I'm going to be called on, so I need to be on the entire time. I need to have read the entire time, and I need to know what the teacher's talking about in that moment, because if not, then I'm not going to know what to say, and that's not going to be cool. So I would really encourage you all to keep that video on and to obviously be on mute until you're called on, but you're going to get a lot more out of this experience. And law school is already hard, and I think like when you allow yourself to be distracted, allow yourself to have those extra like creature comforts that you get at home that you wouldn't have if you were in the building, that you're not going to get as much out of it, and it's actually going to be harder for you in the long run, because then you're going to be like, why are all my notes so spotty and I have no idea what I'm doing? And it's because you weren't paying attention. So I want to reiterate that that is a really important thing. And I also want to encourage you all that like Zoom is a nice platform in the sense of like your teachers will utilize the chat function differently. So you may actually be able to get in some different questions that you wouldn't otherwise get to get in with the professor moving along and address those later. I know for Professor Stone's class, as a law scholar, I'm actually going to be present on the Zoom classes. And I know some other law scholars may be as well. So I'll be actually answering questions live with Professor Stone's class, which would not be something that I would be able to do in person. So I would encourage you all to look at Zoom as an opportunity to get as much as you can out of it. And I say that to use it wisely. Don't ask stupid questions. Don't put dumb things in the chat. But I would encourage you all to use your resources wisely in that sense. So that's all I have. Thank you, Sabrina.
Yeah. Sina, do you have anything else?
Yeah, just a couple things. So, just having your own area is really important too. I'm gonna swivel over here. That's my desk over there. It's really messy right now, but that's where I do all of my work, and that's where I listen to classes and join in. And just having that area organized and keeping it ready to go with a highlighter, with pencils, with notebooks, anything you need for class is just really important. It gets you in the zone. So when you sit in that area, you know that, okay, it's time to work. Also, going off of what Ellen said, it is really important to stay engaged in class, but there are times where class goes fast. Professors go through topics and concepts really quick. Do not be afraid to ask the professor to clarify something. If it went by too quick, they are happy to help. Every professor I have had has been more than happy to go over something even multiple times. They're willing to do it. And if you need it and think that you could benefit from it, don't be afraid to ask. You can, different professors will have different ways of, different ways for you to ask questions. Some will require you to raise your hand through the Zoom function. You can type in a message in the chat, and then you can even privately message your professor through the chat if you don't necessarily want people to see that you're the one asking the question. And typically the professor will keep it anonymous if you do privately message the professor. But yeah, just don't be afraid to ask questions when you need to. And if it so happens that you do miss a certain concept, write it in your notes as you're going through class. Make a note that, okay, this rule in civil procedure or this statute in crim law, I need to go back and review this, because pretty much guaranteed that all of your classes will be recorded and will be on Panopto, which is this program where you can go and basically review the entire class and go over what you may have missed. And that can help a lot too. But you do want to minimize as much as you can having to go on Panopto, because it's not an easy experience in general. You have to sift through, the entire class to find the specific point that you missed, and it's not that fun. That's why staying engaged and keeping along with class is extremely important. You want to minimize as much of that as you possibly can.
Awesome. Well, that kind of sums it up for us and the student perspective side of what virtual learning is going to look like. I know Dean Diamond on the second day of orientation is going to talk to you all a little bit more about what virtual learning will look like from a professor's side. But if you guys watch this video and come across any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're easily accessible, happy to answer any questions. We've been in your shoes. We know what it looks like, and we've all been successful so far, and we want to help you do the exact same thing. My email is just firstname.lastname@ubalt.edu. I think that's the same for everyone else, yeah?
Yep.
Yes, so don't
Yep.
hesitate to reach out. Good luck at orientation. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate. We are always here, and we will hopefully see you guys soon. All right.